Try to do batteries these days. It's at 3, so if we can see that, we can tell if it's running out. So far, so good. Good morning. So we'll start with the First of Thought teaching, starting with the Heart Sutra on page 3. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagawan was dwelling on Massive Vulture's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagawan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly, completely awaken unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Payata gate gate padagate padasam gate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagawan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagawan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagawan. I prostrate to the gathering of the Dakinis in the 3 chakras who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after practitioners like a mother her child. Akasamarasa Shadasam. Akasamarasa Shadasamarayate. Tayata gate gate padagate padasam gate bodhi soha. By the teachings of the 3 supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be pacified. Shintam kuri yeso. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here right now. Page 7, the mandala offering. Saji Bogi Shuishin Meto Ramarira Blinji Nidegen Gadi Sangi Jinu Miteo Aidro Kunandai Jin La Chu Pa Shu Je Su Nama Nam Pa Ki Nam Chu Kala Kien Se Chu Zin Jesus Ampe no Malahasa Nechiki Chapa Tu Solidam Duratnamandala Kamniviyachayami. And on page 1 is the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Sangye chudam sogi chonam ha chanchu badu dabni kapsuchi dagi chinyen gipe sonam ki drola penshi sangye drupasho sangye chudam sogi chonam la chanchu badu dabni kapsuchi dagi chinyen gipe sonam ki Drola Panchi Sangye Drupa Sho Sangye Chudam Sugi Chonam La Janchu Badu Dabni Kapsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Panchi Sangye Drupa Sho. So setting a most profound Mahayana motivation, thinking how wonderful it is that we have this opportunity right here, right now, to come together, and particularly in this genre of mind training, which we could say, or the Buddhist teachings, mind training. But in particular, this most precious text that we have been following, the 7-point mind training of Geshe Chekawa, and being able to receive such very profound and precise instructions on training our mind to cultivate all the positive qualities of mind which are in our nature, and then also to purify those which are not beneficial to us, that lead to us creating regrettable emotional episodes, and then if that's unchecked in the mind, coming out in regrettable actions through our speech and through our physical actions, so that we're cultivating a mind of restraint from those, and a mind that is accessing its own natural power, its natural wisdom, love, compassion, kindness, all the positive qualities. How, and then, of course, the most powerful one of joy. We can take great joy, great delight in being here. Okay, so welcome to those newly joining us. We've been on this text for a while. Do we have copies of the 7.9 training?
Same one as last time.
Yes.
Yes, we will.
You've got some copies you can give to people who don't have. Thank you. So, as I said, we've been studying this for some time. And so we're up to out of 7.6. So that means point 6 is the commitments of mind training. So we talk about this particular section that we're looking at. 6 and 7 are called the slogans. So there's 18 of them under number 6, and there's 24 of them under number 7. So what's that? 42. So it's quite a lot of things. And as we go through, you can think of things that resonate with you and think, okay, I'll keep that in mind, and maybe just pick one to keep in mind. I don't know how far we'll get today, but we've got a few weeks on this, looking at the slogans. And then after that, we then look at the conditions for creating realizations, which you could say all of this that we've been doing is all that we do in the Dharma is conditions for creating realizations. But particularly that leads into looking at the Nyondro, the preliminary practices, the Vajrasattva and prostrations, mandala offerings, things like this. So just laying out the months ahead. Okay, cheers. So some copies are coming for those who, so I think at least 3 of you don't have. You have? No. Yeah. So, all righty. So I'll just start unpacking these, or at least we'll start looking at them. So the number 6 is called the commitments of mind training, and number 7 is called the precepts of mind training. Sometimes it's very difficult to distinguish between what's the difference between a commitment and a precept. Precept means vow or pledge or whatever. Commitment means pledges and things like that. So when we do take vows, as long as, like the individual liberation vows, for example, the Pratimoksha vows, when one becomes Buddhist, to follow the Buddhist path, we have, 5 lay precepts, vows. And so within that, it's making a commitment: no killing, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, no intoxicants. So there's the sort of baseline. And then as people go along further and take other levels of vows, then they act as restraints for our mind. They give us direction to how to act in the world. Okay, that's it just in general. So, so just see how we go. As I said, people newly joining us today, you might think we've thrown you in the deep end of the pool without a rudder. You're encouraged to ask questions and debate if you wish. Before I even start. Yeah, I mean, we have a very strong tradition of debate within the Tibetan tradition, because it helps us develop our own wisdom. The Buddha said, check up if what I say is true. Don't just accept it because I said it. There's no such thing as blind faith in Buddhism. You check up, you try and make it make sense to you in your reality, your experience. Okay, so the first of these points says always train in the 3 general points. So then we have to know what the 3 general points, so we know what we're training in. So the first one of these is that, so these 3, that your mind training shouldn't contradict your pledges. So say you've been given a commitment to recite a mala of Om Mani Padme Hum every day. So you don't contradict that. In other words, you do it. Some of us recently had the great fortune to have teachings with Jado Rinpoche, and as part of one of that, there was a commitment, mantra commitment. And Rinpoche said, and if you don't do that, this is how it goes. If you don't do that, if you miss that commitment today, then tomorrow, whatever you've committed to, you have to do double, right? And so that becomes your commitment then. So say I commit to do 2, and then tomorrow I have to do 4, right? And if I miss another day, it goes up to 8, etc. So it can get, he was encouraging us to pick a little number. We had a choice of the number, right? And that's why there was a story about someone made a commitment to 1,000, like not here, 1,000. And Rinpoche said they didn't understand the commitment, because if you miss a day, it's 2,000. If you miss another day, it's 4,000. So that's a lot. So if you're given the choice, I'm just saying, don't feel that it's lazy to choose a small number, because that's the consequence. In any case, whatever pledges, and even if we say, well, I haven't really taken any vows, I'm not even sure if I'm Buddhist or anything like that. Think of any pledges that we've made, promises we've made, commitments that we've made. So if we're in a committed relationship, don't cheat on your partner. If we're, like for example, as some of you know, I've spent a lot of time working with people in prison. I was going to say I spent a lot of time in prison because that sounds quite dramatic, but working with people in prison. And one of the first things I was told going into prison is don't make a promise to the guys that you can't keep. It was mainly guys, right? Don't make a promise you can't keep, because they hang on to that, right? I've made a promise that I will be there next week. I can say I'll do my best to be there next week, because sometimes next week would come around. I'd be there, but I couldn't get in for various reasons. You know, even I'd ring up beforehand, all good to go. Suddenly the prison would go in lockdown, something would happen. And so you couldn't always be there. Mind you, one time I was very proud of these guys. They saw me get through one gate, in other words, where they could see me, but I couldn't get through to the chapel because the main chaplain had disappeared. I knew subsequently why it was, but I didn't know at the time. And so they were so distressed, they went to the governor and said, we want our Buddhist nun. Isn't that delightful? So I got in through education instead. Good on them. Yes, please.
I've been thinking a lot about the question of why people cheat, for example.
Cheat, yeah.
So, okay, you do have a commitment that you have to uphold, right? But if that commitment at some point, for various reasons, it hurts you way more than you can handle.
Yeah, if it's a relationship, say.
Yeah, but
say.
Yeah, but some people at some point will use those relationships and will also practice infidelity to help themselves somehow inside of them. So
what would be the answer to that?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
That's what I'm asking.
Come on. The answer would to be honest with your partner and saying, I know we have a committed relationship, but I'm out of here, or whatever, you know? Or you talk to them about it and say, but I want to go off with someone else. I mean, some people have all these arrangements that are like, you know, whatever, take a year off or go off but come back, or, you know, if that works for you both mutually, we have to be honest, right? So but the thing is about being honest, not sneaking behind their back. And why? Because it hurts everybody. And it damages any sense of trust there is in that relationship.
Well, what if it happens so that the person's actions show that that person has not been faithful, but that was perhaps only in my mind. So I've been unfaithful because I thought they were. And
it's just,
what happens there?
I say just avoid relationships altogether and get ordained.
Yeah, all right.
So simple. No, I know that's not, sorry. Well, again, like if I'm not a relationship expert, you can clearly see that. But if you are in a relationship and you think that the other one's cheating, it doesn't make sense to cheat because you think the other one's, it's like, it doesn't, I mean, I know that happens, lots of movies about it, they've all ended in disaster. But, I mean, I'm sure there's a happy somewhere along the way. But wouldn't also the thing to be truthful there and to ask your partner, like, I've got this in my mind that you're cheating. No, please tell me if that's true. Like, I'm not saying you are cheating. I'm saying, please tell me if it's true or not. And then if your partner says it's just in your mind, then you have to check up what your mind is. You might say, well, they're probably lying to me. They may be. But that's still no justification for going off with someone else. You could say, okay, well, I'm not 100% convinced, So if I find it to be true that you are with someone else, that's the end of our relationship. You set your boundaries, you be clear, but you don't create another problem on top of a problem that's already there. That's what I would be doing. Because it only, multiple people get hurt. I don't know why they have to make so many movies about it, because it keeps happening. I mean, yeah, because it keeps happening, but it's like pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, please, you people who are actually have had experience with relationships more than me, please provide a different scenario if you wish. But so the thing is about, and the very basis being truthful. And I guess when we come back to these pledges about not contradicting that, it is about being truthful, like I was saying about the guys in prison, because then I totally lose their trust. If I say, you know, I'm going to do something and I can't. I might want to do that thing. I might want to come back next week, and I intend to come back next week. So I can say all those things, etc. Okay. So that's number one. But generally here, it's not about just what we've been discussing. So this is about disregarding the law of karma and its results. So this is once, because this mind training is advanced training. That's why I said, for those of you who feel like you've been thrown in the deep end, you have. Because it's not, in some ways, it's not for beginners, but like Pan's question there, we can make it make sense in terms of our current situation, life situation. So, so the main thing, like one of the things is about not dismissing the law of karma, having had the teachings about it, having unpacked that. Even we haven't had the teachings, I think we can all accept it, that something positive brings a positive result. Something negative brings a negative result. Now, it might be a bit stripy, as one of my teachers used to say, that, you know, I might buy a bunch of flowers for the one I've cheated on. It may not bring a positive result because still haven't addressed the core issue. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about very simply, if I say kind words, I'm usually going to be met with a nice response. We've got those, what did that slogan out there on those bumper stickers say? The smile is the beginning of peace. A smile is the beginning of peace, something like that. Because as you know, my practice is smiling. Out and about smiling, engaging with people. Very simple to do. So, and why we say once having heard the teachings, because without, like, the law of karma, cause and effect, and it gets very elaborate. We won't go into all the elaborations right now. The law of cause and effect basically says, if we bring it down, for all that we think, do, and say, there are consequences. There are results that come along. That's why we come along to the Dharma class, to pujas, to meditation, so forth, because we're interested in creating the conditions for those positive qualities to develop. And that has a cause and effect result, right? So we're happy with that. But the same happens on the negative side. And I know, like, I grew up in a household where you weren't allowed to swear. Good Catholic household, good Catholic. And you weren't allowed to swear. And so I didn't get used to those words coming out my mouth. But then I go into prison and the guys are all this and that and, you know, every second word. And as Lama Zopa Rinpoche said to one of our directors, previous directors in New Zealand, so not here, said, because he used to swear a lot, and Lama Zopa said, wash your mouth out with soap. So we could say swearing's neither negative nor positive, dependent on the conditions around us, but we have to think how people are going to hear it, right? Certainly as a nun, you're going to hear it like, I thought she was a nun. I thought she was like spiritual. So we have to look at those results. So, you know, and I'm emphasizing this bit about embracing the law of karma and its effects, because there is a stream of people who call themselves Buddhist, who don't accept past and future lives, who don't accept karma. And I was just like, sort of at the core of Buddhism. So, you know, you could say those people are like the rest of the world. Most people do not even think about that, let alone, you know, accept it or decide even to accept it or not. So that's fine. But as a Buddhist, very difficult to label Buddhist, because then it confuses people about what Buddhism's about. Just saying. So also, as I said, this is an advanced practice of Lojong, this genre of Lojong mind training. That's what it literally means. Is also, you know, people say, oh, I'm practicing mind training, so I don't have to refrain from killing, stealing, lying, and so forth, because I'm training my mind, you know, so it doesn't matter. I haven't come across anyone like that, fortunately, but it's what say Chilba is saying is, be very careful that you don't use that as an excuse to have sloppy, not using restraint, ethical restraint. Okay. So the idea is that whatever vows we've taken, whatever pledges we made, we observe them purely while we're training in and doing mind training, because the ethics is the foundation of everything, totally the foundation of everything. So we have across the board, whatever school of Buddhism, the 3 higher trainings. The very first one is the training in ethics. And if we look at the world today, this becomes incredibly important, doesn't it? That there's a lot of unethical behavior being displayed, being enacted at very at leadership levels, which can then give people the sense it's okay, like generally in society, it's okay to do those things. Whereas those of us who are following the Buddha's teaching and wishing to develop ourselves spiritually along that path, it is not okay. So regardless what other people are doing, it's not okay for me. It's not okay for us. So living our life and practicing daily in accord with the teachings of the Buddha, which come in these 3 baskets, we say. The Vinaya is the one about ethical conduct, which is predominantly about our speech, refraining from harsh speech, lying, idle chitter-chatter, divisive speech that splits people from another, and doing the opposites. And then, as I mentioned previously, refraining from killing any living being, stealing, or I prefer the translation that says taking what's not yours, because we may not see it as stealing when we take something that is not ours to take, like the flowers in the botanical garden or something. People know you can't do that. Mm-hmm. Don't you? Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. King's Park, we don't go around taking the flowers, right? I hope. Yeah. So lying, stealing, and sexual misconduct, which we were talking about earlier. So in the Buddhist context, is either cheating on your partner that you're in the committed relationship with, or cheating with someone else you know to be in a committed relationship with, or as soon as you find out they are, you know, when you do the dating apps and then you find out, oh, actually, yes.
Quick question, because you also mentioned politics, and I think it's really
Did I mention politics?
good.
I didn't say the word politics.
No,
I said leaders.
Politics.
Okay.
It's not a political question, it's completely psychological. Sometimes when I have 2 choices, I've noticed that they are both poisonous from different perspectives. So I have to choose my poison. They're both gonna hurt me, but I have to choose
Why do you have to choose a poison?
because that's what I'll be dealt with. I have no choice. Everything is
There's
gonna
no
hurt.
other choice. There's no third choice.
Sometimes there isn't.
I don't know. I haven't. Give me a scenario where there's no third choice.
A scenario. Okay. For example, let's say, all right. Supposedly, I am with someone. All right.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, I want to be with them, and it hurts me being with them.
It hurts you being
Yeah.
with him. You
Yeah.
want to be with him, but
Yeah,
it
but
hurts
it
you
also hurts
being.
me because of some reasons. Because we all have loved people that hurt us.
Yes.
I think that's normal.
Yeah.
And the other choice is to try to separate myself from that person.
Yeah.
But how can I do that easily? For
I know.
example,
Yeah. How did you
can I
work?
slowly not hurt myself from separation?
So you love that person, but it's hurtful to be in a relationship with
Yes.
them. So therefore, you do not want to be in a relationship.
Yeah. And therefore, you might use means, for example, misconduct, to step my mind to step away from that relationship because I can't take it. So due to a weak mind, I don't have a choice
Yeah, but why create another problem?
because that problem hurts me less than the first.
And you have no. Come on, you people. There are other solutions. Come on, you've all got experience. There's more than two choices here. Well, it is easy to walk away.
That's very painful as well.
Everything's painful. We're in
That's what I'm
samsara.
saying. So I have to choose my poison. There's no way. I have to feel the pain.
You have to feel the pain. Yeah,
Unfortunately,
of course you have to feel the pain. Buddha said.
I don't want to though. I clearly don't want to feel the pain. I want to step away from it.
We all don't want to feel the pain. We all want to be happy, and none of us want to suffer. It's sort of a healthy thing, but we have to be skillful, don't we?
Mhm.
Come on, you'd step away from the relationship. And that's again about being honest. Is that yeah? Exactly. If I've had the conversation with them that this relationship is hurting me, or I feel hurt in the relationship because you can't blame the other person, because what you're doing is not doing any of this mind training. I mean, the scenario, right? It's saying this, well, this isn't, and believe me, people do it probably, every day. I'm going to have a relationship. So what? I emotionally distance myself, but I'm still not being honest with that person. It's still not honest. So maybe it is, as Leslie's saying, about having an honest conversation. And it may be that the relationship is not the issue, because we have to work on relationships. They don't just automatically, work themselves out. So if you're not able to have an honest, open, kind, and yet truthful conversation, right? Then you ask yourself, well, first of all, even before you do that, you have to say, I am experiencing hurt. What's the hurt that I experience? Why am I experiencing it? And what can I do to change that experience? But it's two people in a relationship, so you have to work it out together. And you might together decide, okay, we love each other. People do that. We love each other, but it's not good for us to be together. And so then we can stay friends. Of course they can. Yes, I've known men who were in being the one not abusing in abusive relationships. Of course, that happens. But this is where we use our wisdom, isn't it? And we say, okay, if you were to say in this relationship, what is beneficial in this relationship? What do I love about this other person? Right? Or what do I love about being in a relationship with them? Two different questions. So you interrogate it from all angles for yourself, so that then you can engage with them in a wholesome discussion that's not based on emotion. And if it gets emotional, just time out and do what you need to do, right? I mean, you know, time out to calm down. Okay, we'll come back to this or whatever. But if it's an abusive relationship, then that doesn't help anybody. I'm not saying any of this is easy. It's like being in an intimate relationship. It's as close as we get. It triggers all our self, this I that wants to protect itself at all costs, big time, you know. So we have to, you know, really look at where's my hurt coming from? Who's the me that's hurt? What is that hurt? And then, yeah.
So, I think deep down, because you mentioned going deep down the root of it, it's attachment.
Of course, it's
Yeah,
attachment.
That's where
Yeah.
I sometimes pity myself, because my wisdom sees that it's attachment.
Yeah.
But I purposefully change an attachment with another attachment, so hopefully I feel less pain.
And more attachment.
It's just different attachment.
So
More
yeah.
or less gonna be attachment.
Why not just go and no, sorry, that was silly. So we're in samsara, the space that we occupy in samsara, this is called a desire realm. So there's always going to be attachment. Our minds are always going to be, and this is one of the things we're wanting to work on, is the mind of attachment, right? To lessen the mind of attachment. So replacing one attachment with another attachment and not addressing this one. I remember, I keep mentioning this, and then I haven't even checked up if these books still exist, but I remember this one book, and I remember going through the workbook, is it love or is it attachment, where you're trying to work out if your relationship is primarily attachment or primarily love. So primarily love in a Buddhist context would be what? May you be happy, and have the causes of happiness. So the other person, right? May you be happy, regardless if that happy, I'm in that picture of your happiness or not. So this is like, we're wanting them to be happy, right? And in your scenario of I'm being hurt and so forth, you think, am I happy? What's making me happy in this relationship? So you interrogate also for yourself, because we also want to be happy. I mean, ants, cockroaches, they all want to be happy, all of us. And so our pleasure mind, our sensory consciousness will say, that's okay, I'll just find someone else. But we have to go to our wisdom mind that says, no, that only creates more problems. It's not honest. Do I really feel comfortable about that? Do I got to go sneaking around and create more and probably lie because of that? Well, it is a lie anyway to cheat. So it makes it very complicated. And then we complicate things. And then we hurt, they hurt, lots of hurt goes on. The person that we're in a relationship when we haven't finished this one, they don't know. They think, well, he's going to go back to that one. It's a big mess. Being your own therapist, yes. Lama, yes, you. Yeah.
Session we talked about in terms of being a therapist. Not your problems, what your problems, how did you go with others, and practice that when there's no problem, but just practice that so that the problem lines you can hear and almost automatically problems will be less.
Yeah.
Because of this description, I'm still thinking about, am I happy?
Yeah.
How can I make myself happy? Maybe if you change it and you think about, well, what am I doing for the other person? Am I helping them? Am I supporting them? Is there anything that I can do to make our relationship better?
Yeah. So just expanding out from what you're saying there about our focus being to make others happy. I can also look at that relationship. You know, I only know what you've been saying, but given this scenario, I would say, okay, how much is this relationship also supporting me to be able to make others happy? So that can go beyond the relationship as well. Or am I spending all of my energy just trying to make this work and I'm hurt and da-da? So you just got to weigh up. We weigh up for ourselves. We use our wisdom mind as well to just weigh up what's beneficial for me and the other person, let's face it, to be in that relationship, right? So you be your own therapist. You check it up, and you know, if you've really given it sincere energy to build that relationship and to be there for the other person, then, and it's not working out for you, like if you end up being more unhappy, then you can't be the source of happiness for others, you see. So you just got to weigh up all those bits. So it's no cut and dry, but I would just suggest by creating another problem on top is another problem. And from a Buddhist point of view, from an understanding of karma, we'd say that's reinforcing that habituation to continue to cheat, lie, do. And that ripens for us in situations where, usually ripening in future lifetimes. So what ripens in this life is usually a result of the habits that we've built up in our mind from past lives. And so then that creates a situation where the consequence of that karma of cheating means that we can't maintain relationships, that even in a workplace, people don't trust you. Many sort of any, not just in intimate relationships, but in, you know, our greater work relationships or whatever family relationships, that things break down. And so because karma multiplies from that, maybe it was one time, one act, but it also habituates us with this idea that this is the only way out. So even having that habituation of the idea, this is the only way, because I've never yet seen a scenario where there's only two ways. You know, you're given this ultimatum, there's this or that, and you think, no, let me think what other ways to deal with it. And then being spacious, open, and using our wisdom mind. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So the second point of these three is, okay, I don't know, this one I don't think I have any difficulties refraining from. So it says refrain from activities, obnoxious behaviours such as sleeping in harmful places, felling harmful trees, visiting areas where you may contact contagious disease, etc. So what this is saying is, we're on the first point of the mind, the first point of point 6. I'm looking at Seichubu's commentary. So Seichubu, who was the direct student of Geshe Chekawa, who wrote this commentary. So I'm just unpacking that first point, the 3 main points, training in the 3 main points, right? So the second one of that, which I said, refraining from these obnoxious behaviours, sleeping in harmful places, felling harmful trees, visiting areas that you may contract contagious diseases. So what this is about, putting yourself in danger, is where we don't use our wisdom mind and we think it's okay, I've got mind training, I can handle this situation. And as I said, I don't perceive myself doing that, but think again, you know, the number of people, so we've got the situation, Ukraine, Russia, we've got the situation with in the Middle East, Gaza, Israel, and so forth. And that many people out of compassion will say, I'll come help. And usually when you say, I'll volunteer, I'll help out, usually they say, please don't, because you just create one more problem on top, unless you are a skilled doctor, nurse, whatever is needed in that situation, that our compassion will want to be there and help, but we don't have the skill to do it. And that's what this one is saying. Don't put yourself in those dangerous situations. And another part of this is there's a teaching called the 10 Innermost Jewels of the Kadampa Masters, which is not that same thing, it's a different thing, is that while you're training, while we're doing mind training, and while we're, not putting ourselves in those dangerous situations unnecessarily. Of course, John will go and fight fires because he's a trained firefighter and he trains other people too. So he'll put himself in those dangerous situations because he knows what to do and he knows how to tell other people what to do. So it's a sort of, he's got the skill, he's got the wisdom, he's got the experience. So like that. So another part, according to the Kadampa masters, is that as we start to engage in this mind training and move away from scenarios like Pan presented, we find that we're out of step with society. Like our friends might say, oh, just chuck it in, just go and cheat, just do this and that. And we find ourselves going, but that's not ethical, but that's not kind, that's not honest, that's not. So we have to develop this inner strength of knowing, regardless of what my mates are going to tell me, that's okay, that I know it's not. And so I'm going to behave according to ethical behavior, right? And whatever vows I have. Of course, yeah. So another one of the Geshis, the Kadampa Geshis, Geshe Shawapa said, examine where you might go wrong. So we look at challenging situations in life. So we deal with questions like Pan's question. It's a dilemma. How do we deal with that? How might I go wrong in this? And where our actions become offensive in any way, then we've moved away from the spiritual path, that we've moved away from an ethical life, even without vows. And we sort of know that. And so to make sure also that our conduct doesn't become obnoxious. And as Dharma practitioners, and maybe our family, our friends know that we're Buddhist, or know that we're following a Buddhist path or interested in following a Buddhist path, and if they see us behaving in an unethical way, then they're going to doubt what that path is. What are they teaching you there? When I was at Chenrezig Institute, Vajrayana Institute as well, hasn't happened here yet. Give me time. But people would come in and they'd say, oh, my partner said, isn't it time you went back to that Buddhist center? In other words, you're getting really stroppy now, please. Yeah. So we don't want to create those doubts for others. Right? And then the third one is I'm just trying to make this make sense for us. Oh yeah, so this is some people will be ethical or at least respectful of people who may be important people in their life, but bully other people, and so your behaviour's mixed. We might be affectionate towards our family, but hostile towards others outside of that, your family, your country, or whatever. And this is where we have that practice, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, widening the circle of love, so that love and care, maybe protection and so forth that we feel towards our family, that we gradually broaden that circle. This is why I like the smile effect, because it's with complete strangers out there. And, you know, it's a bonus if I get a smile back, but at least I feel like, you know, you do often. People smile back, and I think for one moment I've made that, you know, person smile. Isn't it just a delight? It's so simple to do, making those connections. And sometimes it even goes further and you have a conversation. Wow, who would have thought? So that people that we regard just as the shopkeeper or the bank teller or the petrol pump person or whatever, we can check out person. Yeah, having been one of those in my youth. Yeah, been there, done that. I still remember people would come along, they go, what's Tiff Sack? Thank you for shopping at King. You had to say it to every customer, Tiff Sack. I don't know if they still do that anymore. They've got machines. I've been driving Venerable Peka's car this morning, and I noticed when you turn it off, the car says goodbye to you.
Oh, God.
The car says goodbye. Sweet, huh? Someone programmed that to be nice. Why not? So training our mind to be free of that discrimination, which is this even regard for beings that all of us, even the one cheating on us, all want to be happy and don't want to suffer, so that we're aware that other beings just like us are in that category. And so that then we have compassion for their suffering, and then we have love for them, which is the love saying, may you be happy and have the causes of happiness. So of course, the ones we have difficulty with, the too hard basket, we cross the road to avoid and, you know, cross off the Christmas list and so forth. They're the ones who are, Geshe Zopa calls it, our objects of compassion, because they help us train. If I can have kind thoughts about them, towards them, thinking that, okay, even I don't, you know, because what our negative mind does, so we've got the one of attachment, the desire mind that exaggerates all the positive qualities. And the other, and then when the attachment doesn't get what it wants or get what it doesn't want, then we have aversion, dislike, you know, you were rude to me, so therefore I don't like the way you walk, talk, dress, everything. We exaggerate. And yet that person was our friend until that moment. You know, I even have one friend who asked somebody who cut her off the Christmas list, who wasn't talking to her anymore. And so she asked her friend, what was it I did to upset you? And she said, I can't remember, but I know you did. That was the end. It's like, really? Come on. Yeah, we're all a bit like that in degrees. So, you know, just seeing on that basis of none of us want to suffer, we all want to be happy. We're all just doing our best to create the causes of happiness. We're usually chasing after the wrong things. As your perfect example. Thank you. Your perfect example is helping us out. Okay, so next point, which is point 2 in the list here, engage vigorously in forceful cultivation and abandonment. Forceful cultivation and abandonment. So here we're talking about cultivation of the positive states of mind and abandoning the negative states of mind. So just to elaborate slightly on that from the mind training like the rays of the sun, which is a commentary on this. Okay, amongst human beings, we should not behave forcefully towards those who have been kind to us, or even towards our relatives. Here it says, and servants. That maybe doesn't apply to us. We could say volunteers, because my experience, having been a volunteer coordinator for the happiness conferences in Sydney, happiness and causes conference, sort of volunteer coordinator for 10 years. First of all, I had to educate the staff about the value of valuing the volunteers. You know, the people who turned up at 5 a.m. and didn't go home to 10 p.m. You know, you've got to care for, value, and so forth, because all our centres are built up of volunteers, isn't it? Of really nurturing and being, yeah. So,
Can I add something about step 2? Because I find it a little bit contradictory.
yes,
When it says forceful, that I have active examples of being forceful to myself and others to cultivate positive mind and eventually helping them.
okay.
I have done it.
Can you give an example?
Yeah. So by talking about emptiness or self and stuff like that, and forcing people to listen and might be open, that might make them crazy.
Yes,
And I have
that's great.
that end up in mental health institute
Yes.
after a lot of emptiness.
Let me suggest that may not have been emptiness.
No,
That's
it's he
yes.
specifically told me when he came out, you shouldn't say those things.
Yes, correct.
You're not a teacher. And
The other thing
really
is,
bad,
yeah,
because he was a really good friend of mine.
yeah. So you're a really good friend of mine. If the one who gave you that advice was doing you a great service.
Yeah.
So we have those who've taken bodhisattva vows. We have a commitment, a pledge, not to talk about emptiness to those whose minds aren't ready. And so we don't know, as your friend said, you're not a teacher, to find out whose minds are ready for that. But I get your enthusiasm to want to share the Dharma with others. So generally we say that, you know, if we see the examples of our lamas, and they can see, they don't come up and say, you know, I think what would really help you is when we go to them for help, then the door opens, like in terms of their advice to you, but they can see all the help that we need. But it's up to us to be ready to receive that, right? And so that's, if we follow that example. And so even saying, well, you know, but I want to, so even we don't proselytize, we don't try and make people Buddhist, we don't try and make people follow the Buddhist path. That's a definite no-no. As the Dalai Lama says, if you're Muslim, be a good Muslim. If you're Christian, be a good Christian. If you don't have a faith, be a good person, full stop. So here we don't do that. But even if you understood anything about emptiness, so emptiness is about an ultimate truth. And people go, what are you talking about? So we talk about conventional truth, right? Just conventional, on the basis of conventional existence. And there we can, with people, talk, not using the Buddhist labels, but talk around the Buddha's unique teaching about dependent origination, dependent arising, in the sense that we can say, but everything's interdependent. Nothing happens out of nowhere. Like, we get that. If we didn't get it before COVID, we got the fact that some subtle little thing that I can't even see causes worldwide human devastation, you know? So very much interdependent. We're globally interdependent. We can talk about that. And then I have to ask myself, but why am I saying that to my friend? Is it something beneficial? Like the Buddha would speak if it was beneficial, you know, if the time was right, if the person was ready, and if it was, and kind. So as you said, being forceful doesn't help. That's what this is saying. Not trying to force things onto people. But if they come to you and ask, so What have you been learning about in that Buddhist place you go to?
Usually it comes out as a simple coffee, like meeting,
Of course,
where
coffee.
they just trying to tell you about how they suffer, and sometimes they try to convince you in how they are right. And in that case, I very seriously and with passion, I will disagree with them, and I will use everything I know from the scriptures,
Yeah.
and that really kind of shakes the reality.
Yeah, and in a way we can say it's great to shake our reality for us.
For us,
We've signed up to that, to have our reality shaken, right? But you want your friend to come along for the ride, let's say. So slowly, turn down the passion. I know it's probably hard.
An easy debate.
Yeah.
About having a coffee, but
Yeah.
to some people it's very, very.
So we find, we find the skillful, like if we want to have those debates while having coffee, you have to find skillful ways that they're going to be able to hear.
That's true. Yeah.
And usually people themselves like to talk, so be the listener. Listen to them talking about their suffering and maybe have a conversation with them about what they've tried.
Makes me sad.
Yes. Hey, look, no question about your motivation. Again, it comes down to wisdom about skillful means and appropriate situations. So, yeah, this is why, generally it's saying being a Buddhist is being an inner being. It's about our mind transformation, right? So, for example, where I worked at a university at the time that I ordained. Before I ordained, nobody there knew I was Buddhist, right? And then all of a sudden I have to ask for time off to go to New Zealand to get ordained. Boss says, oh, that's wonderful because, you're doing it in the break time, semester break. And, oh, I've got a Buddhist nun who lives near me and she's lovely. So, yeah, all of that. But up until then, nobody at the uni knew I was Buddhist because I didn't go around saying I was. Just like that. So that's what it's cultivating our inner. If we cultivate all these positive qualities within, then we develop the wisdom to deal with it, our coffee conversations like that. We know, we try things out and sometimes we get it wrong and sometimes we get it right. And so let go of what's wrong. If it's not working, drop it,
And how to develop those skillful ways to communicate?
Just like you seem to me that you know how to communicate. So how did you develop
Not
that?
skillfully.
I don't know. I think people are clear, right? So here in life, you use your wisdom mind to try it out. You think, okay, my friend didn't like me talking like that. Was I too full on? Was I too saying the wrong words? Did I actually listen to them? Start with the listening, because then you get a sense of where somebody's at. And yeah, if they need to talk about their suffering all day, be there for them as a friend. Yes, pleasure. So where it says to be forceful is with ourselves. So we must persevere in combating the misconception of this self, of this inherently existent me who knows what's best for everybody else and who I cherish, who I, hold on to and who I want to make happy. This one that doesn't exist. Conventionally, of course, we're here, we exist. We don't chuck that out, but we say, okay, getting that, turning my orientation out towards others, familiarizing ourselves with concern for others. So in helping my friend, my concern is to help them. My concern isn't to tell them everything I know. My concern is to be of benefit to them. How am I going to be of benefit to them? Right. And so we'll find many ways of being able to do that. In a similar vein, subjugate all the reasons for selfishness. All the reasons we tell ourselves that we've got to look after number one, all which arises as our attachment, our aversion, our prejudice about people, all the negative emotions, the afflicted states of mind, all the constantly finding people attractive, unattractive, or we're indifferent to them because they neither help me nor harm me in my perception, and so forth. So in Nagarjuna's letter to a friend says, your father becomes your son. So if we look at it in the long term, it's Holiness Dalai Lama says, if you get to choose the short term or the long term, always go for the long term. And I think even not subscribing to future lives, even in this very life, if I go long term, what does we say? You can't see the forest for the trees. Is that right? So have a bigger perspective, because while I deal with this situation here, my mind's narrow and I'm finding everything difficult. Whereas if I have a bigger perspective, I'm going to look at it differently. So here, the letter to a friend from Nagarjuna to giving advice, your father becomes your son. So we're talking future lives. Your mother, your wife, and your enemies become friends. And the opposite also happens. Basically saying there's no certainty. And even in this life, I thought, be nice to everyone, because that person you were rude to might come back into your life and they're going to remember that. So just thinking this life, I'm going to say, just be nice to people. Otherwise, they're going to build up their catalogue of, and when you did this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Also, you find by being nice to people, even though you have an aversion towards, you find out things about them that you never knew before, right? Or even you didn't have an aversion, but they were a stranger, like this woman who is always begging at the shopping centres. And I always have, when I'm give her some money and whatever we all do. But so, and we have conversations and blah, 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 blah. It's very, very nice. But one time she was there with her mate, who's another guy who's also out there asking for money and so forth. And he came along. I'd given her 2 $5 notes because that's what I had. And so when he came along, she gave him one of them, right? So that sense of really appreciating people that we might not necessarily otherwise appreciate. And yeah. And the fact that I was going to mention earlier, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's little book, I don't have here anymore. I think it's probably still available. How to be happy. Every single thing about how to be happy is about taking care of others more than yourself, of orienting ourselves towards others. Years ago, I remember seeing this possibly documentary, and the Happiness Project. So it was a project done in America where school children, teenagers, went into communities, I think overseas, but anyway, different experience from their own. And all the things that made them happy all ended up being about helping others. Like nobody said, oh, what made me happy was the ice cream. Or I don't know. Or perhaps with the exception of meeting the Dalai Lama. I think that also made them incredibly happy. So we know that we feel happier when we're helping out someone else, benefiting someone else, or offering to benefit someone else, rather than getting caught up in our own machinations and it's all about me and so forth. One of the women who was in a think tank with the Dalai Lama it was in the films Dalai Lama Renaissance. She was a Episcopalian, Jean Houston. So I used to read her books and did workshops with her in over East. She's from America. And she said our problem, one of our problems is that we walk along like this and going, oh, life's terrible. There's always, so much misery going on and, da, da, da. She said, if we look up and look out, we have a completely different experience of the world and ourselves. So just that opening up, opening out to others, it's a great gift. So, and also, as Magajin's saying here, is that, that what goes around comes around, if you like, in karma, that we experience the results of that, whether it's lifetimes away that we experience the result, or if in this life we experience that result.
And well, I think it's very easy to enjoy benefiting others when you're face to face. It's much harder when you're doing things like cleaning toilets. It's not a visible job that is ever kind of appreciated. Occasionally, something.
I think you have to talk to Owen about that, because at those retreats in Bendigo, he always put his hand up to coordinate the toilet cleaning.
He never took it up.
Oh, now you tell me.
Yeah.
Well, I remember at Chen Resig, the people who put up their hands to do their karma yoga of cleaning the toilets. So we can make that like, as Lama Zopa says, like at Chen Resig, they have that sign of about, what is it about? There are no lifeguards on duty, so close the lid of the toilet. I know this is not, not talking about your one at home, right? And then there's a feng shui thing of to keep the toilet closed so that all your positive energy doesn't literally go down the drain. So that's another thing. But then Lama Zopa Rinpoche says to close the toilet, seal with a double vajra, right? And you're sealing off the lower realms, right? So we can train our mind in that way. But, so everybody's got toilets, so we can, I'm just trying to think what Venerable Pekar's put next to our toilet. That's, well, as you know, the Vajrasattva visualization, that doing your Vajrasattva practice, usually on the toilet, but why not when you're cleaning it as well? Flushing away all the, purifying the mind so that my mind can be clearer for the benefit of all beings. Give it a go, you will find out.
I noticed that cleaning the toilets up in Therese actually made me happy. But another time when I cleaned the toilets in some hotel, I was very unhappy.
Well,
Something's going on there.
Something's going on there. I can't say what it is. But, in that situation, both those situations, you're cleaning the toilets literally for others to enjoy a clean toilet. Offering them a clean toilet. So you can visualize all the beings and offering them a clean toilet. Think of all those times. Have you been to teachings in India?
Oh, yes, yes.
Have you waded through the, who knows what? To keep your eyes closed when you go to the toilet and just say, I'm creating the cause for everyone in the world to have clean toilets. Just go.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I just have a question in regards to the whole selfishness.
Yes.
Is there like a middle ground where you include yourself in that equation?
You do, no. And this is the thing. This is why it's called these are called advanced trainings, because we can neglect ourselves because I'm doing everything for other people. And this is where you hear people talking about compassion burnout, which is not actually compassion burnout because you can't burn out of compassion. But we have to do self-care, like when you get on the plane and they tell you put your own oxygen mask on first before you give to someone else, because being dead is not going to help anybody, right? Being sick. I know when I ordained, this monk said to me, because I came back from the coldest New Zealand in 30 years at the time. I'm not sure, they've probably broken a few records by now. And so this monk at my center said, go to your room, I'll look after you. You've got to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So yes, that is the middle ground. But we also have to, the Buddha said, I mean, it wasn't a new age thing, it wasn't post-60s, me generation. It was the Buddha saying, we have to have self-compassion, self-love. I mean, how can you have for someone else when you don't have for yourself? And sometimes it's more confronting to have that for ourselves, because we can sometimes be our own worst enemy and beat ourselves up, isn't it? Give ourselves a hard time. And so that is a sad thing. But the cultivating that builds our own builds those qualities of love and compassion within us, builds our resilience, builds our determination. And then if I build those within myself, then I can offer to others. It's like the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama said about, I remember one time in Sydney saying, get a good night's sleep, because then when you wake up, you're refreshed. And whether you're meditating or whether you're working, being a benefit to others, you're refreshed, you know. So, because people, or, you know, especially if you hear about Lamas of Rinpoche never sleeping. I tried that once, or not never sleeping, but sleep deprivation as an ordinary human being is not a wise thing. So, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. An example of what you're saying with to also replenish your emotions.
Yes.
Re-energize and everything.
Yes.
So, I actually work as a support worker.
Yeah,
So
excellent.
that's a bit of an example. Like if I'm really burnt out, and
Yeah.
it can be quite emotionally draining, because obviously in this
Yeah.
line of work, you have to put people for yourself on a daily basis.
Yes.
And if you don't make sure that you're okay and take a little bit of time to
Yeah.
do some therapeutic activities to replenish your emotions, then you're not able to offer the best version of yourself and not help people the way you would like to.
Spot on. Spot on. That's absolutely right. You're totally in line with the Buddha. Wonderful.
Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful, because we had, you know, when COVID became a thing in Australia, I was at Chenrezig Institute in Queensland. We went into lockdown, but we put on our website, you know, ask a monk or nun a question type thing, so that people could communicate and so forth. And I had so many from paramedics, like, how can I prevent other people being fearful when I'm terrified, you know, and things like that we have to take care of ourselves. And so it's using, again, our wisdom, because our compassion does want to help. As Charles Darwin said, we can't help but help. We're hardwired for compassion, right? This is natural to us. But we have to have the wisdom to know what is it I'm capable of. It's like the previous one saying, don't put yourself in dangerous situations that you can't handle. They're dangerous because you can't handle. Somebody else might handle. Like I said, John can handle the fire thing, but I'm not going to go there. I'd be in the way. Yeah, and we rejoice in all your work, because it's a tough gig. Yeah. Good on you. It can be, but very rewarding as well, visually. Yeah. Wonderful. They're transforming people's lives. Fantastic. Okay, folks. Oh no, we might be able to do a bit more. So I'm on the one about, oh yes, we're on selfishness. So what it says is subjugate all the reasons for selfishness. So this is not the self-care. This is the just thinking about number one. So it's the reasons that our minds tell us of. So we have to identify what those are. For example, I remember being in the States, in the United States, and hearing these ads on the radio. And there was the tagline that came along a lot: because you deserve it. Because, and so if you've got that mantra going all day, every day, you're going to be, but I deserve it, but I deserve it. So we have to then, having that mind of I deserve it, interrogate, well, what does that mean? You know? So anything like that, that's like, oh, I don't want to go to work and help other people. I'm sick of them. Whatever. You know, that horribleness. And saying, where's that mind coming from? Do I need a break? Or is this just me being, you know, selfish? Selfish. Just another example. So when I was the checkout chick in Kmart, and that I started when I was 14 years and 9 months. And I remember it was like the January sales, and it was like you get to work and there were people almost banging on the door they were banging on the door probably to get in for the big sales. And one thing that horrified me is to this day I have that image of these two women fighting over a toy truck. And they both would not let go. And they were seriously fighting over something that was ridiculously worth nothing. And it was only a little thing. And to the extent that one was pulling and the other one cut her hand. It cut her hand. It's just like, now that's selfishness, right? Wouldn't you be caring for the other person rather than it's mine? So that's the one we've got to keep a grip on, is this mind that it's mine. I own it. That's what selfishness. See what that mind does? Just well, I don't have long fingernails because it would hurt. But that grasping mind, you know, rather than can I help? Very different gesture. Okay. All right, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you very much, everybody, and for having a very beneficial discussion. I wanted to mention, well, at least one or two announcements. One is I'm very excited because we're having, as far as I know in the history of Higher Riva, please, those lineage holders, contradict me, the first interfaith gathering here, which is on for Harmony Week. So it's on the 16th of March, and we've got people coming from other traditions and so forth who are coming along and offering prayers and talks, and still hoping that we have the Bhutanese and the Tibetan singing and dancing. I've invited them both to do. So that's on. And then the following Saturday at 10 a.m, I'm not quite so happy about, we'll be farewelling Venerable Yeshi, who will be going back to Chenrezig Institute. They've got a big year with the 50-year anniversary and various events happening this year. So we will have a morning tea to celebrate all the wonderful contributions she's made to this place. Any other announcements, anybody? Okay, so let's dedicate page 8. Just the first two verses here. Gewadi no joidai Mahasanghe Rugyone Roachi Kyang Mahadupan Ne Sahala Guhu Pasho Janchub Sencho Rinpoche Make Panam Ge Kuchi Ye Panyam Pame Payang Gong Ne Gong Du Pelwashu. The next page, the prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we can recite in English. Incomparably kind and supreme Denzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. May you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings Through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request, while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. In the long life prayer for Tenzin Oso Rinpoche, Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, makes clear in the light of your well-spoken advice the sacred Ganden tradition, essence of Buddhist teachings, the foremost and holy Lama, to you who are supreme, we make this prayer of supplication. O Lama, please, please live long. So just another couple of announcements. On the 13th of April at Kopan Monastery, there will be a commemorative puja for it's the acknowledging the 1 year since the passing of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's passing into parinirvana. And so that was one. The other thing I meant to mention earlier was that we're having a Nyungne here, so those, which is a Chenrezig practice, those people not sure, I'm happy to talk to you about. So that's over the Easter weekend on the Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, finishing on the Sunday morning. So you're coming, intending to. I'll check up with you about that. Yeah. So if anybody is interested in that, please let me know. See you, Tanya.